What's going on, my friends? It's me again. You know me. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I do hope your royalty statements on the last one were bigger than the last and growing and doing well. I was going to touch on something real quick. I've talked about it a fair amount, and I'm not trying to beat on the dead horse, but I still see the questions asked, and people are getting offered these deals, and I've talked about it because it's something you've got to. It's a hard choice because you be damned if you do and you be damned if you don't, kind of thing. But it's always wondering the what ifs, like what if that track did that? What if it did that? Now, when you're doing a lot of library accusers, the odds of one being a theme track for a TV show could vary. I mean, it could happen. Don't think that it can't happen, or being in a major brand ad or a huge film, big budget film, or something that pays good licensing money of some such, more than what is offered to you. And the question was asked yesterday. Someone said, I have a 10-track album and I was offered $300 a track up front, and then I get my 100% royalties on the back end. And basically, it sounds like it's waiving any sync fees. And basically, that's what that is. If you get an album in a library and they give you money up front per track, you are waiving your future sync fees. In other words, you sign that 10-track album and let's say they give you $200 a track and that's $2,000 or whatever. I'm just throwing figures out there. Nothing is the same on every deal. It could be $60 track, it could be $100 track, it could be $500 track. I don't know. But you want to think that, understand and know and think about this, because it's when you take that money up the track, what you're waiving is any future money that will ever be given to you up front. We're talking about licensing money, sync fees. But you're going to get 100% writers on the back end. You're going to get your back end. Now, here's why I've turned that money down in the past. And I know what you're thinking. Why would you turn down free money? Because of the fact that at the time I didn't need that money. It didn't make a difference. And I'm thinking of future terms. I mean, and I've said this before, I've had a few tracks that have yielded me more than that $100 or $200 a track had I taken that money. Not too much more, but more. In other words, I've gotten that money in licensing fees over the years. So that's that. And then not knowing what that track could do in the future, you have to think about that. What if that track ended up a theme in a TV show? And let's say it's a track that's in a hit NBC sitcom that licensed pretty big a year, and the royalties behind it are huge. That's one of those rarities that we all work for. That's that phone call you really want to get one day. It'd be really cool. Kind of like the guy from Seinfeld. He's still making a ton of money over Seinfeld reruns. You know, you don't know what that music's going to do. Now, I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't. It's like I'm not fear mongering either or giving false promises. That's not what I'm doing. But you have to understand that licensing fees from certain libraries do come. I get them, little increments here and there. Not everybody pays them because it's a free blanket, but there are licensing fees paid because there are some distributors that collect that, and it's a requirement. It just all depends on what you're doing. But understand that if that thing were landed in a major commercial, like a major brand like Mercedes or Best Buy or one of these big companies, and there's a budget up front, if you took money up front and you signed that deal, which I think some people call it a partial buyout, you're not going to see any of that licensing money from that commercial. You may see some back end from the commercial, and that's all. So keep that in mind, guys. And it's hard because the argument is different. Some people think, well, it's greed trying to screw people in this industry. You may be right. You may be wrong. I don't know. It's a basis of opinion in one regard, but you have to understand what you're signing. And I'm trying to scare anybody that's new in this business. Like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I have to hire an attorney? No, you just have to learn and understand. There's a few principles of these contracts you need to understand. It's not rocket science. You will learn it. I learned it without hiring an attorney, and you can too. But just know and understand that, that track could get a sync fee of $400 or $500 in one shot and something out there random in the world. You have no idea what your music is going to do. You really don't. There are people out there that can testify for this. I wrote that track 10 years ago and it was in a Mercedes ad or it was a theme for this TV show. There are people that talk about that. I can't tell you specifically because I don't know off the top of my head, but it does happen. Trust me. The other side of this is if you're doing custom work and you can get 100% writers in the future, and that custom work is, listen, we're paying you a budget to write this custom, and you're getting, and it's for that one commercial or for that movie, take that money, because it's going specifically for that movie. And it's a lot of times if it goes into that movie, it's licensed in perpetuity, exclusively custom wise, just for that film. They're giving you a budget up front. Now, that's another corner of work that people do that's kind of hard to get into. It's its own niche, like writing for brand ads and commercials. It can be tough, but it's a good market to get into because you get into all that demo game where if you're selected out of 3 or 4 people to call to do that ad, they want to these music houses want to pick 4 good guys. They know they do that genre. Like, listen, you're going to get a $500 demo fee, or if you get the ad, then you get the full budget. That's included in that. What it could be $4 or $5,000, could be 10,000, could be 20. It just depends on what you're doing. You have no idea. I've heard of people's music being put in commercials and brands for colleges, like in United Arab Emirates, and they pay a bunch of money. They don't care. And it was like $1,000 every time it was played in that commercial. It's crazy. That's one instance it's happened. So there's no set formula and you don't know, but that's something I want you to think about. If somebody says, hey, it's an exclusive sync contract, we're giving you 200 tracks up front, $200 a track up front for 10 tracks, and you get 100% writers on the tail end, and it's in perpetuity. I don't care about the perpetuity. I'm good with that. If it's in a library that works hard and it's really good, it can stay there forever because it's in a great audience. Perpetuity doesn't scare me, nor does exclusive. And it doesn't scare me on the money up front. I just understand that I'm not desperate for the money. I just want to know that, the back end's going to pay me in the future every bit of that money. And some libraries, some of the licensing fees are going to come in, and over a certain time, it's going to add up to that $100 or $200 a track or $120 a track or whatever it is. The amounts vary. It depends on the library. I mean, I've had libraries give me weird deals of like, if we do it exclusive, I'll give you $120 a track, and you know, they want to take 60% of this, or they want to take all your sync fees up front, going forward. In other words, they're buying out all that, they're giving that money up front, and you get 100% writers. Or their non-exclusive is a 60-40, and you don't get any money up front and you get 100% back. And they're taking 60% if you do non-exclusive. That's not a cool deal at all. 50-50 across the board is a fair deal. I understand when you're looking at a licensing or music library or publishing contract, 50-50. 50 on the sync fees, they get 100% the publishing, you get 100% writers out of 200%. That always confuses people when they're new to this. Never give up your royalties and your writers. You don't understand. Don't slow down. It's okay. There's a publishing side and there's a writer side, out of 200%. So keep that in mind. But anyway, I digress on that. Just kind of think a little bit about what you're signing and just know and understand. Never be afraid to ask questions if you don't know. Trust me. And so it's been said, and I'll say it again. The only stupid question is the one you did not ask. So I don't care what somebody's opinion may be your question. You ask that question, you got your answer, and that's all that matters. Therefore, you never answered a stupid question. And with that said, my friends, I appreciate you. Appreciate you for watching. Any questions you have, chime in. And if I can't answer it, I'll find somebody who will, because I don't claim to be the be all end all. I'm just passing on my experiences and what works for me. And I thank you for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Be cool. Bye.